He stole my life savings, so I tracked him down and took everything he loved. Consider this an investment I'm not willing to make, my older brother, Joel, said, not even looking up from his phone as our father slid the envelope across his desk. The return on funding your little art hobby is basically zero. The envelope contained $28,000. Every dollar I'd saved since I was 14, from mowing lawns, bagging groceries, and working construction. It was my ticket out of this town, the seed money for my own graphic design studio. I'd trusted them to hold it for me, just until I finished college. My father, Walter, finally spoke, his voice heavy with false regret. Joel's right, Liam. A business degree is a solid asset. This art thing is a liability. We used the money as a down payment on Joel's new partnership. It's a real investment in the family's future. I felt the air leave my lungs. They hadn't just said no. They had stolen from me. I looked at my brother, the golden child, and my father, his willing accomplice. The last thread of familial loyalty snapped silently inside me. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply nodded, my face a mask of calm. I see. 7 years later, my design firm was the secret weapon behind the world's most iconic brands. And when Joel's new business was on the verge of collapse, he came to me, his hat in his hand. I gave him exactly what he'd given me. Nothing. But that was only the beginning. You won't believe what I did next. Before we get into the full story, make sure to subscribe to the channel and drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. My name is Liam. For 22 years, I was the quiet son, the one who kept his head down. My father, Walter, was a retired bank manager who saw the world in terms of risk and collateral. Safety was everything. My brother, Joel, was 7 years older and embodied everything my father respected. He was a slick, ambitious businessman who traded in commodities. Things you could touch and sell, like my father's beloved antique cars. I was the anomaly. While Joel talked stocks and profit margins, I was sketching in the margins of my notebooks. My passion was design, logos, brand identities, the visual stories that made companies unforgettable. To my family, it was a cute pastime. You need a real career, Liam, Walter would say every time he saw me drawing. Something with a penchant, like accounting. The world will always need accountants. But I had a plan. During my final year of college, I'd been freelancing online, building a portfolio and a reputation. I'd saved $28,000, a small fortune to me, and I kept it in a savings account my father had helped me open as a teen. I trusted him implicitly. My big break came when a small, eco-friendly coffee company I'd done a logo for was featured in a national magazine. My design was highlighted. Overnight, my inbox flooded with inquiries. I knew it was time. I would move to the city, rent a small studio apartment, and launch Liam Shaw Design. With my heart thumping, I went to my father's study, where he and Joel were reviewing spreadsheets. I laid out my plan, my printed portfolio, and the bank statements. I'm ready, Dad. This is it. I need to withdraw my savings to get started. Joel chuckled without looking up from his phone. Walter's face was unreadable. He opened his desk drawer and pulled out my envelope. For a glorious second, I thought he was going to hand it to me. Instead, he slid it to Joel. Liam, Walter began, using his patient, talking to a child voice. Joel has been offered a partnership in a premier logistics firm. The buy-in is substantial. This money will provide a much greater, more secure return for the entire family. I was stunned. That's my money. I earned that. And we're investing it. Joel said, finally deigning to look at me. Consider this an investment I'm not willing to make. The return on funding your little art hobby is basically zero. The words art hobby felt like a slap. This was my life. Walter nodded, his decision made. Joel's right. A business degree is a solid asset. This art thing is a liability. We used the money as a down payment. It's a real investment in the family's future. I stood there, my dream evaporating in the stuffy air of the study. They had conspired behind my back. They had stolen my future to cement Joel's. They thought Liam was just a quiet dreamer. But what happens when a creative mind is pushed too far? The plan he devises is a work of art in itself. I was shell-shocked for a week. I dropped out of my final semester, the motivation completely drained from me. I was back to bagging groceries, the shame a constant weight. One afternoon, my father asked me to print some documents from his computer while he was out. I sat at his desk, the same desk where my future had been stolen. As the printer whirred, a notification popped up on his screen, a calendar reminder for a meeting at the country club with Joel and his new partners. A cold, sick feeling settled in my gut. I opened his email. I shouldn't have, but the betrayal gave me a right I never knew I had. I searched for Liam's savings. The thread popped up instantly. The subject line was investment strategy. Joel had written, "Dad, the partners are getting antsy. We need to secure the $28,000 by Friday. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, My father's reply, sent the day before I had even asked for my money, made my blood run cold. The money is yours. Liam's savings have been sitting idle. He'd just wasted on computer programs and fancy pencils. This way, it builds a legacy. He'll thank us someday when he has a stable job and you're providing for the family." The final email was from Joel, sent an hour after they'd gutted me. "Thanks for believing in me, Dad. Unlike Liam, I won't let you down." It wasn't a last-minute decision. It was a calculated, premeditated theft. They saw my dream as a waste and my ambition as a joke. I wasn't a son. I was a piggy bank they could break for the favored child. The betrayal was even deeper than Liam thought. It was a planned execution of his dream. How does a quiet artist fight back against something like this? The initial, searing pain hardened into a cold, diamond-hard resolve. I would not yell. I would not confront them. I would become a ghost, gathering my strength in the shadows. I forwarded the entire email thread to a secure, private account I created. I took photos of the screen with my phone as a backup. This was my proof. A few days later, I played my part. I called my father, my voice thick with fake defeat. "Dad, maybe you were right. Maybe I need a real job. But I've got some student loans coming due. Is there any way you could loan me just $2,000? Just to get me on my feet?" The condescension in his voice was a familiar, chilling comfort. "Liam, you need to learn to stand on your own 2 feet. We can't keep bailing you out. This is a hard lesson, but it's for your own good." I had it. His voice, denying me even a fraction of what he'd freely given Joel, preserved forever. I went to the county clerk's office. It took me an afternoon of digging through public records, but I found it. A filing showed Walter Shaw had co-signed a $200,000 business loan for Joel Shaw's new venture. The date was 1 week after they'd taken my money. I compiled it all, the emails, the audio recording, the loan documents, into a single, meticulously organized digital file. I named it Project Phoenix. This wasn't for revenge yet. This was for me. It was the evidence that I wasn't crazy, that my pain was real and justified. It was my unassailable truth. Liam now has the proof, but he's broke and has nothing. How can an artist with no money and no resources possibly fight back? His next move is pure genius. With nothing but my laptop, my portfolio, and a burning need for justice, I left. I didn't say goodbye. I packed a single bag, used my last $200 for a bus ticket to a city 8 hours away, and never looked back. I found the cheapest room for rent I could, a basement with a single window near the ceiling. I lived on rice and beans. During the day, I worked a soul-crushing data entry temp job. Every night, from 7 p.m. until 3 a.m., I worked on my real career. I took on every tiny, underpaying freelance design job I could find, building my reputation 1 pixel at a time. What my family never knew was that my little art hobby was a mastery of a very specific, highly lucrative niche. I didn't just make pretty logos. I engineered brand identities that told a story so compelling they could make a failing company look like an industry leader. My secret weapon wasn't a brush, it was psychology. I understood the emotional triggers of color, shape, and typography in a way that data-driven businessmen like Joel simply couldn't comprehend. After 18 months of this grueling schedule, I landed my first major client. It was a struggling outdoor apparel company. Their sales were down, their brand was stale. I presented not just a new logo, but a complete brand resurrection. I redesigned everything from their packaging to their website, telling a story of heritage and adventure. I worked for a fraction of my usual rate in exchange for a small percentage of future sales. They agreed. 6 months after the relaunch, their sales had increased by 300%. My percentage share payout was more money than I had ever seen in my life. That was the crack in the dam. Word spread like wildfire in the niche world of venture capital and startups. If you want your company to tell a story, you hire Liam Shaw. I was the ghost behind some of the most successful tech and lifestyle brand launches of the decade. I consciously cultivated a persona, the reclusive, mysterious design savant. I never gave interviews. I never mentioned my past. As far as my family was concerned, I had vanished into well-deserved failure. Liam's success was built on a psychological skill his family mocked. While he's becoming a silent powerhouse in the business world, what's happening back home? The reckoning is closer than they think. 5 years after I left, my firm, now called Narrative Design Company, was the subject of a glowing feature in a major business publication. The article didn't have my picture, but it used my name. It called me the branding oracle and hinted at the staggering fees I commanded and the equity stakes I took in the companies I transformed. The news hit my hometown business circles like a shockwave. I was in my new light-filled downtown loft when my phone buzzed. It was Joel. I let it go to voicemail. Liam. Hey, little brother, his message began, his voice slick and overly friendly. Heard the crazy news. Man, that's incredible. I always knew you had that creative spark. Listen, I'd love to catch up. My business is booming, and we could really use a brand refresh from the best in the business. Family discount, right? Call me back. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. Next, a voicemail from my father. His voice was stiff, formal. Liam, it's your father. I saw the article. Your mother, she would have been so proud. The message ended. I stared at the wall, a cold fury crystallizing inside me. He had weaponized the memory of my supportive, artistic mother, who had died when I was 10, to manipulate me. It was the lowest thing he could have done. It was also the moment I knew my revenge would be absolute. The vultures are circling, but this time, Liam controls the battlefield. How will he handle their transparent greed? The first face-to-face meeting is a masterpiece of psychological warfare. They didn't wait for an invitation. My assistant informed me that my father and brother were in the lobby. I had her escort them to my client presentation room, a minimalist space with a single, long maplewood table and one of my own abstract paintings dominating the wall. They looked out of place. Joel was sweating in an expensive but ill-fitting suit. My father looked small and shrunken in his old blazer. Liam, my father said, trying to sound paternal. This is quite a place you have. It serves its purpose, I replied, my voice calm. Joel jumped in, all fake charm. We're family, Liam. And family helps family. My logistics firm is poised for a massive merger. But our brand is holding us back. It's stale. We need the narrative design magic. My father nodded. It would mean a lot to your mother's memory, son. To see her boys working together, building a legacy. There it was again. My mother's memory, used as a bargaining chip. I pressed a button on the table. Sophia, could you bring in the black portfolio from my studio? A tense silence filled the room until my assistant entered and placed a sleek portfolio in front of me. I opened it slowly. The first thing I slid across the polished wood was a blown-up photocopy of the $28,000 bank statement from the day they stole it. You were right, Joel, I said, my voice even. The return on investing in my art hobby was a question mark. So I calculated it myself. I tapped the statement. This initial investment of $28,000 has generated a net worth for me of just over $20 million. I'd say that's a pretty good return. Their faces were ashen. I then slid out the second item, a printed copy of the investment strategy email thread. Joel's jaw hung open. My father looked like he'd been physically struck. I know you used my savings for your partnership buy-in, Joel. I continued, still terrifyingly calm. And I know Dad co-signed a $200,000 loan for you a week later. You didn't believe in my dream, so I built it without you. And now, your multi-million-dollar merger? The company you're merging with? They're my client. I redesigned their brand 6 months ago, and I advised them against the merger. The color drained completely from Joel's face. You what? I told them your company's financials were over-leveraged and your brand was toxic. They pulled out this morning. I looked at Sophia, who gave a slight nod. The story of the hometown branding genius and the brother who stole his savings, complete with the damning evidence, was now being strategically leaked to the business press. Liam didn't just reject them. He actively destroyed Joel's deal from the inside. The fallout is just beginning. How far will the consequences reach? The story broke under the headline, The Design Oracle's Revenge, how a stolen $28,000 built an empire and destroyed a family. It featured anonymous quotes from my old art teachers and college friends, all confirming my family's long-standing dismissal of my talents. The effect was instantaneous. Joel's business, built on perception and connections, imploded. The bad press was a death sentence. Clients fled. The bank, now aware of the scandal and the failed merger, called in his loan. Since my father was the co-signer, his retirement savings were wiped out to cover the debt. Their social standing in our country club town evaporated overnight. Walter, the respected former bank manager, was now a pitted fool. Joel was a pariah, a laughingstock who had betrayed his own brother and lost everything because of it. I, meanwhile, made my own move. I established the Clara Shaw Foundation, named after my mother, endowing it with $2 million to provide art supplies, software, and scholarships for underprivileged young artists in my hometown. The press release was a masterstroke. I spoke of honoring a parent who nurtured creativity, drawing a stark, unspoken contrast to the one who had tried to kill it. The court of public opinion had ruled. The sentence was total financial and social ruin for them. Walter has lost his money, his reputation, and his son. But is there a final, private confrontation coming? The last meeting between father and son will reveal if any healing is possible. He came to my studio a month later, alone. I almost didn't recognize him. The proud, upright banker was gone, replaced by a stooped, elderly man with defeated eyes. "Liam," he said, his voice raspy. "Can we talk?" I led him to my private sitting area. He couldn't look at the art on the walls. "I was wrong," he began, and for the first time, it sounded like a true confession. "I wasn't protecting you. I was jealous." That was a word I never expected. My father was a dreamer, like you. He poured everything into a novel he was writing. He died a bitter, unpublished man. I promised myself I would be practical. I saw your talent, your passion, it was his. And it terrified me. I thought I was steering you away from his fate. I chose Joel because he was safe. He was like me, a coward. He looked at me, his eyes glistening. "I am so sorry, son. I am not asking for money. I am asking for your forgiveness." I listened. I heard the pain, the regret, the shattered pride. And I felt the distant pity. The wound was too old, too deep. The artist he had tried to bury was now the man he was begging for mercy. "I believe you," I said finally. "And I understand your fear. But understanding it doesn't undo it." I took a deep breath. "You taught me that the only person I could truly rely on was myself. You taught me that my dreams were only safe inside my own head. It was the most valuable lesson you ever taught me, even though you never meant it to be." I told him I would set up a small, monthly stipend, enough to cover his basic living expenses in a modest apartment. It was more than he deserved, but less than he might have hoped for. "There will be no reconciliation, Dad," I said, my voice firm. "No role in my life. You made your choices. This is the consequence." He nodded slowly, the truth of it a physical weight on his shoulders. He had come for forgiveness, and I had given him clarity. He left a broken man, but an honest one for the first time. The revenge is complete, but the victory is bittersweet. How does Liam ensure he doesn't become like his father? The final scene provides the ultimate answer. Today, I'm 34. The money is a tool, nothing more. I'm not defined by my wealth or my revenge. I'm defined by the life I've built. I'm married to Alara, a sculptor I met at a gallery opening, who fell in love with the man, not the myth. We have a 3-year-old son, Leo. As I write this, I'm in my home studio. The door is open. In the sunlit living room, I can see Leo on the floor, completely absorbed, a fat crayon in his hand, scribbling wild, joyful shapes across a massive sheet of paper. "Daddy, look," he exclaims, holding up his masterpiece. "I made a dinosaur." I walk over and kneel beside him. "That's an amazing dinosaur, buddy. Tell me about him." He looks at me, his eyes full of limitless imagination. "He's a nice dinosaur. He sings songs." I smile, a genuine, peaceful smile that starts deep in my soul. "I love him," I tell my son, my voice soft. "You can create anything you can imagine. Never, ever let anyone, not even me, tell you that your dreams aren't real." In that moment, the cycle is broken. The lesson in theft has been transformed. It has become my son's lesson in boundless creation.